is nature, animate and inanimate, as it appeared in the Garden of Eden, unadorned by mountain, lake, or forest. Now I have found myself. This dreamland of mossy grama grass shall be mine, and shall be peopled by the youth of the old sod, trained like Kansas Titans of the frontier.
It may have been a unique vision of Eden that George Grant saw when he crossed the western Kansas prairie in 1871. But the rich Scottish silk merchant returned with some youth of the old sod to found the town of Victoria, Kansas, and to make a home in his Kansas Eden. However, Grant's place in history isn't the founding of Victoria. Towns were being built by the hundreds at the time. George Grant is distinguished for having brought the first Angus cattle to the United States. His 4 Angus bulls arrived in Victoria on May 17, 1873. Grant dreamed of building the area into a thriving colony of Englishmen in America. He bought hundreds of longhorn cows and then imported purebred rams and bulls from his homeland to improve them. He built a villa overlooking hundreds of acres of land he had acquired from the Kansas Pacific Railroad. Other Englishmen, too, invested heavily in the area. But the colony, unlike many of Grant's earlier enterprises, was doomed to failure. The English had little experience to prepare them for rugged frontier life. Soon after the settlers arrived, their newly acquired lands were devastated by drought, grasshoppers, and prairie fires. The herds had to be moved away from Victoria to survive. Grant kept his precious imported bulls in protected ravines and fed them with the little remaining hay. Many other Englishmen did not do well either. Some died in the first hard winter. Some moved elsewhere, and others who could afford it returned home. George Grant stayed on, despite the hardships, and convinced other settlers that sheep and cattle raising could be profitable on the Kansas plains. His unexpected death in 1878 ended his dream of an English ranching colony. But cattlemen who bought the progeny of Grant's imported Angus bulls soon realized their value and the importance of Grant's venture. The bulls, when bred with native longhorn cows, produced an exceptionally high percentage of thick, black, hornless calves. They were a tremendous improvement over the rangy, light-muscled longhorns. The Angus thrived on the unprotected western range. Soon, the crossbred cows were in great demand. One Missouri feeder bought 14 of Grant's half-blood crosses. When he sold them 4 months later, they averaged 120 pounds heavier than other crossbreds and brought $1 a hundred more in the auction ring. George Grant's black muleys were regarded as freaks when he exhibited them at the livestock fair in Kansas City in 1873. But soon after his death, cattlemen began to realize that there was a future for Grant's Aberdeen Angus and began importing them in large numbers. By 1883, the American Angus Association was formed in Independence, Missouri. For years, Angus were used mainly in the Midwest. By 1916, Angus started to make inroads into the western range country, where open range laws made it difficult to introduce a new breed. By the 1940s, Angus herds were found all over the United States, and the breed was expanding rapidly. Today, 100 years after Grant's first 4 bulls stepped out of a Kansas Pacific car at Victoria, The American Angus Association is the largest beef cattle registry in the world, with Angus breeders in every state from Hawaii to Maine. George Grant probably never dreamed that his 4 black polled bulls would start such a revolution in America's beef cattle industry. But because he recognized the potential of Angus, the livestock industry owes him a debt of gratitude. Cattlemen gathered in Victoria on May 17, 1973, to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the arrival of Grant's first 4 bulls.
In 1943, the Kansas Angus Association, in cooperation with the American Angus Association and the Kansas Livestock Association, erected a memorial monument to Sir George Grant, and we felt that it only fitting and proper that it be rededicated on this, our centennial anniversary.
The rededication was an occasion for Angus breeders the world over to note the accomplishments of the past and to plan for the future.
We must have the same pioneering spirit of George Grant, because there are many areas in the world today where quality beef is still not known. So it is with great pleasure that I now place this floral tribute in memory of George Grant at his memorial.
"100 years ago, today, the first Angus brought to the United States arrived at Victoria, Kansas. We are here at Victoria to commemorate that event with a special 100th anniversary celebration. Joining in these ceremonies are visitors from other countries, breeders from throughout the United States, other industry leaders, and representatives of universities, press, radio, and TV. By directing attention to that historic event 100 years ago, the American Angus Association has provided not only a new stimulus for pride in the breed, but another means for acknowledging a source of great strength to our nation's beef industry.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is quite a pleasure to be at your 100th birthday party today. I know of no group in America, or no breed in America that has contributed more to the welfare of the beef cattle industry than the Angus breed has.
Awards were given for accomplishments in the beef industry.
We salute this association's position as the cowboy's voice. We're delighted to have the Executive Vice President, Mr. George Spencer of Denver, with us to receive the award on behalf of American National Cattlemen's Association. Mr. Spencer.
But most of all, the gathering in Victoria was a birthday party, a celebration of a century of progress for Angus in the U.S. In the 100 years since George Grant imported the first bulls, Angus have become the leaders of America's beef cattle industry. They have made life prosperous for thousands of farm families and make mealtime a pleasure for millions of Americans. George Grant's dream a century ago has become a reality through the dedication and leadership of America's Angus breeders.